But I think it's important to make it palatable. So it's one thing to say, hey, you need to do this, and hey, you've got to do this, and hey, this is important, and hey, this will change lives, and hey, this will change the world. Those are all great things. But if you don't make it palatable for the person, not palatable for you, but palatable for the person.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am Sarah Box, your host, and you know that we are on a mission to help individuals, teams, and organizations, especially our nonprofit friends, think outside the box, move beyond limiting labels and belief, and create profound impact in their own lives and the lives of the others that they serve. And we do this by sharing accomplished and inspiring guests who have challenged their own limiting labels and beliefs, some to pursue personal goals and some to pursue professional goals. And our guest today is no different. I am excited to introduce you Rodney Thomas, who is a multi-talented individual with a diverse background spanning various creative endeavors and educational roles. So from his early years as a recording artist, TV host in the 1990s, to his extensive experience as a creative consultant and a development expert, Rodney's journey has been marked by a passion for artistry and education, and he's currently a school administrator and music production teacher at one school of the arts and sciences. This is where he gets to use the wealth of knowledge he has and his experience to inspire the next generation of artists and creators. And his dedication to his craft is pretty evident in his professional roles and his ongoing quest for knowledge. He's currently revisiting books like The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, good book, and The Tale of Three Kings, which I don't know anything about, so I will ask him about that. But despite that background, Rodney maintains a humble online presence, kind of preferring to let his work speak for himself. And he is a big merger of story and music. So sometimes we don't think about music as story, and yet it is. And stories, when done well, actually have a musical background theme underneath them. So with that, I'm going to talk to him about the transformative power of music and teaching in the personal growth and positive change arenas, inspiring his students' creativity and resilience, and then being authentic through music and teaching. And we'll talk about that relationship between music, storytelling, and conveying emotions and narratives. So with that, let me finally welcome Rodney to the podcast. Hello, Mr. Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that introduction. That I have to live up to that now.
Go ahead. And we'll add to it. If you want to add something on, whether it's been accomplished yet or not, we'll just put it in there because you can forecast. Let me ask you this, though. Let's start with this. Can you share a story about how music has positively impacted someone's life, your own or someone else's that you know, or helped them overcome obstacles or challenges?
Well, I'll start with a very personal note. When I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher just fell in love with me and really just connected with me in a way that I didn't have outside of our home and our close circle of friends. And she championed me. And I was a singer, from before I was born. I was singing. And so I sang a lot, and everybody kind of at that time, I'm dating myself now, compared me to Michael Jackson. And so my kindergarten teacher, took it upon herself to make sure that when Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 came to Maryland, which was where I was living at the time, Landover, that she got tickets and took me to go see him. And at the time, of course, it was just great to go see, to be in the concert and to go and to be with her and all of that. But I didn't recognize that she saw something in me that she wanted me to experience. And it profoundly affected me, that the relationship and the concert and everything else profoundly affected me. To this day, I can see I can see where the lines kind of come together in pleasant places, and I can see where that impact. So for me, music has been, was powerfully impacted by a trusted teacher who saw something in me and decided that she was going to risk the investment to help develop that.
I just want to pause for a second because that really touches me. One, for your teacher's love and kindness towards you, but to also for listeners, that one gesture basically changed how you were framing yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so how old were you?
I was in kindergarten. What is that?
So 5 or 6.
7?
Oh no. Yeah. Young.
I'm a September. Yeah.
Yeah. So different enrollment time. But you know what, when you see yourself differently like that, like this is what's possible, or here's my teacher who sees something in me that says I should be here, it tweaks how you see things going forward because you can see yourself belonging, and like the door's open to you. And I'm really super jealous that you got to see Michael Jackson in person. Really jealous. So you've dated me as well. Because the Jackson 5 was great, but Michael Jackson was magic to me. I just went,
yes,
mind blowing.
Yes.
Okay, back to you though. So now how do you kind of take that lesson and where does that show up in your teaching that you do today?
Well, the first thing it showed me, it was the impact of a single individual. Like a single individual can change the course of lives, one life in lives. So that was the first thing. That was the first impact. Then the second part of it was how, see if I can explain this the right way. It felt like I was given, because I was given something, I owed something. And that theme, it's constantly been through my life, where someone has shown up and provided a missing piece for me. And that resonates with that first interaction. Those all resonated to where now I tell the kids that I've taught and have, over the years, to go, once they say, "Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Thomas, what you did," I'm like, "Well, actually, that's actually a problem. Like me helping you with a problem." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, because I owe a debt. And because I owe a debt, because someone poured into me and someone saw something in me and someone, nurtured that in me, I owe that now. And I'm sorry, but now because of our interaction, you now owe a debt. And now you owe that you have to do something for someone. You have to be there. You have to be a missing piece. You have to be present for them." And it's always, they always are like, "Wait, what?" Like, wait, there's strings attached to this. So that's the way I approach, pretty much everything. It's like, I owe a debt, a debt I can't ever pay back fully. But I can pay it in the moment. And so that's what I do. And then I just teach my kids, you've got to do the same. You owe, so you have no choice.
I like that a lot. So what's their reaction other than the kind of the shock of it? Like, what, I owe something. Do you see them turning around and pouring into other people as a result of those conversations you've had?
So what I do is I try to offer them situations where they have no choice but to do that. Because it's one thing to tell someone to do something and that they have to do it and that's good for them. But it's another thing to make it palatable for them. So when as a dad, I used to hide vegetables in all kinds of food. If my kids wanted spaghetti, then I'd make a bolognese, and there's a ton of carrots and a ton of, there's a lot of stuff in there that you just don't see. And you're just thinking you're eating spaghetti or, this big meatball, you have no idea that, 50% of that is vegetables. But I think it's important to make it palatable. So it's one thing to say, "Hey, you need to do this," and "Hey, you've got to do this," and "Hey, this is important," and "Hey, this will change lives," and "Hey, this will change the world." Those are all great things. But if you don't make it palatable for the person, not palatable for you, but palatable for the person, because they have their own sense of what they can handle and what, how they view things, what they treasure, what they don't. So what I do with my kids is I get them in positions where they have to serve someone else. So sometimes it's, okay, I'm bringing in someone that's going to record, and you have to record them, and they're the talent, and you now have to make sure that they're comfortable, get them something to drink, talk them through what they're going through, talk to them about where they're at in their process, be present for them in the moment so that you can get the most out of them, because, they're going to give their best and you're going to get the most out of that. But remember, you're serving them. So even in the very small things, okay, we're turning knobs, we're making sure the microphone's in a certain space, but really we're serving people. And that's what I think it has to be. And that's what I try to put them in positions to do that. So you have to do it. You need to do it, but let me make it palatable. And then every time they do it, I just champion them. I just say, you're awesome. That's amazing what you did for them.
So that's very different than just teaching something, because when you come and look at life through that lens, Rodney, everything is an opportunity to serve, right? Every small thing is an opportunity to serve. How I answer the phone is an opportunity to serve. How I open the door, go out of my house isn't depending on where I am, not even depending on where I am, but it's an opportunity to serve. So that you're really changing the viewpoint for going into the world. Am I overstating that?
No, I think that it really is what it is. I think that's what happened to me over and over again. So it makes it easy to take this big, profound thing that you just said, because that's a big thing that you just said, right? But it makes it easy because, oh, well, this was done for me, and this is just a part of the process. And since it was done for me, I can just do the same. And I don't have to think that I have to be anything or, be that great for it to have that profound effect. It is in its nature profound, in its nature to be big if we serve. So yeah, I think it's not, you haven't overstated it at all. I don't think.
Okay. Well, and I think we make it, or can make it, seem like, okay, if I've got to make a difference for somebody, it's got to be this big production, when sometimes it's just simple. Like you're saying, make them feel comfortable, and I remember I was teaching live classes, not on this topic. This was a separate lifetime ago, but I was teaching live self-defense classes. And I remember being panicked. Yeah, well, I stretch myself in ways that I'm going, how did I get myself here? But anyway, I'm in this group of people. I don't know them well. And I'm like really going, oh my God, I've got to keep these guys focused. We've got to get through all this stuff. And I'm nervous as nervous can be. But I heard someone in the back of my head, and this is a sibling and a friend of mine, both said the same thing. They said, when you're nervous, stop thinking about yourself. Think about the other person. So don't worry about what you're teaching. Make sure every person in that room feels seen and is comfortable. And all of a sudden, it just like, I went up, how you doing? Are you good? Glad to be here? What are you thinking? I mean, all those little things, right? But had they not told me that, it would have been in performance mode versus service mode. And so that sounds like even when the kids are coming in, they have a job to do. You're showing or inspiring them to be of service in the tiny things. Yeah?
Yes. Yes. And it's interesting that you say that, that you were teaching a self-defense class. Because I've been a lifelong martial artist.
I'm not that good.
Love martial arts, represent. Well, everybody's is as good as they are, right? There's no, there's no grading in that. But I have always loved the martial arts. I've been studied and trained for years, and that is probably the biggest place where I felt that pull to serve, because my senseis were always like, you have to serve, you have to like, this is a calling, what you do. So it's amazing that I'm very interested to hear about your self-defense classes.
It was full contact self-defense, but I studied some Aikido, and what I loved about Aikido was I wasn't very graceful, but I loved the philosophy of it, like getting off the line and moving with energy and all of that, versus being so confrontive and, like you're just a block, which makes you very vulnerable, in my opinion, in life and in metaphorically, literally, figuratively. Being a stuck block is not the way to be. Humble, that's my opinion. So we'll get off of martial arts, but what did you study, or what arts have you been studying?
So wrestling, karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu. I've trained with everyone that I could have trained with. I fought for Armed Forces Martial Arts, representing the United States Army in Europe. And I trained with
Nice.
everybody that I could train with. I wanted to be, so before there was MMA, before there was this whole thing, that's what we did, you know. And then of course they became Army combatants and all the other, you know, all the other things, the iterations therefore, but we were the first guys to, you know, just kind of jump in there and do everything. And so I love. I love every martial art. I love all the things that it teaches you, the stripping away of all the unnecessary things, and all the things that kind of, like you said, they get in your way, they're blocks. I love it. So,
Yeah.
and to me, the martial arts and music go together.
Tell me about that. I want to know about that. Here's the mystery thing that popped up today was the martial arts. I had no intention of asking about that, but I feel so called to understand that. And so what is the link, music and martial arts?
Okay. So this is what I've been taught. And if anyone wants to, you know, say it's not so, I'm okay. I won't fight you on it. But I was always taught that there are masculine energies and feminine energy, right? We have both, right? And I was always taught by people in the West before I learned. I was taught that the martial arts were like a physical, masculine kind of a, you know, energy. And but my senseis taught me no, the martial arts is a feminine energy. It's not a masculine energy at all. It's feminine. It's like you've got it completely wrong. And so that really kind of messed with me a little bit. And then, and so I had to kind of reframe, you know, my thinking and all that. But then also, that music is a part of that. Music is a feminine energy as well. So they sit on the same side and they go together. In the old days, you know, martial artists played instruments. They were, you know, they didn't just, you know, fight in a gym and train. You know, they were perfectionists. They were artists with the pen and with the paintbrush, and they were, you know, they were musicians and they were talented with all of these things that most people consider feminine, but they had the feminine energy. They weren't afraid of it. They weren't offended by it. They weren't, you know, they didn't try to classify it as something else. They just moved with it. And I find that for me, music and martial arts, they go hand in hand, both feminine, both, you know, they flow really, really well. But it's the flow. Like when you are, I don't know, when you're fighting, you know, you're in a fight and you're trained, whether you're sparring or you're fighting for points or whether you're fighting, you know, not to get, you know, embarrassed in front of your friends and family. It's still the same thing. You have to get into a flow and there's a pattern and there's a rhythm to the movement. And one person is trying to get rhythm and their will over on the other person, and the other person is playing a different pattern and a different kind of cadence and they're trying to make that cadence be the dominant cadence. And so all of this is playing out, and it's like jazz musicians will tell you, sometimes you just get into a flow and you are just in the pocket and everything is just moving, and it just moves all by itself. It's not like you're thinking through everything, right? Like cycle cultivation says, we started ignorance and innocence, and then we move to that mechanical stage where we're trying to figure it out. But when you move into flow, when you move into that final stage where it just flows, you can do that with music. Sometimes you can listen to music and it can take you into a place of flow that you're like, wait, where did that 3 or 4 minutes go? I was gone someplace. And the martial arts does the same thing. It's that same type of energy and flow and feel. Sorry, you can tell that's my passion. Those are my.
I love it. Well, it really, as you're describing that, I'm thinking I kind of go off in visual drifting. So kind of what you were describing, and you're talking about the flow and the energy shifting. And it almost seems to me like you're describing like when you watch people tango dance, right? That almost feels forward, backward, but always in sync, right? No one's got, you might think that the person leading the dance is in charge, but you watch the woman, the guy leading is not in charge.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's different.
We say that all the time. When people go, oh, well, the dominant one is the one it's like, no. The dominant one doesn't decide. Actually, the submissive one that decides. It is a feminine thing. Like people don't get it, and they get all thrown off when they try to use that masculine energy in this other place. And it's like, no, that's not it. They go with the flow, feel it. Just feel what's happening. If you can feel what's happening, you can go with it and you can move with it. And that's music,
Yeah.
that's martial arts, that's, all of
It's
it.
life.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah, it's life.
I'm digging it. No, I'm right there with you. So let's go back to your students and teaching and the one school. What are some of the things that you're working on? First of all, what instrument do you play? Is it your voice? Is that your main instrument? Do you have other instruments that you like to do with music?
So my voice is my main instrument. That's my instrument. I don't play any music at all. I write music, and I can arrange and I write lyrics. But I don't play any instruments at all. Which used to be a thing that was very difficult for me, because I was around a lot of great musicians, and I'm like, well, I can't play. Like I would literally go to play and everything musical would stop. And I'd get into this mechanical thing where my hands weren't working or my eyes aren't doing, nothing is fitting together. But I had someone, tell me something. It was a music teacher that I went to, and I said, look, I can't get this. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Like I get into this whole thing where I just shut down. And she told me, she said, well, you don't need to play any instruments. And I was like, what? Like, wait, this is what you do for a living. This is how you pay your bills. Like, how are you telling me that I don't need to pay? Like, I don't need to play an instrument. I don't get that. And she told me, she said, Rodney, you have something really special, that you have this music that's going through you. You create this music. It's constant. It's all, she's like, if you sat down and stopped to learn to play an instrument when all the music is already going through your head, what are you going to do? You're going to slow all that down to go to play this instrument, or are you going to write and do and so I've written over 100 songs, put together, like I'm just trying to be prolific. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into my gift and use it, and not be concerned that I can't play the piano. And I'll just tell you this last story, not the last story, but the story about this. I was in Dallas, to record an album, on the Warner, label. And, and the guy and I'd done a song at a concert, but I was there to record the studio for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And one of the guys who was at the concert was like, hey man, I really love to talk to you. I'd love to sit down and like know where you're at. Like you're recording this album, you're with these guys. Like, I just want to know all the things. And I said, yeah, great. Let's talk. So we hung out, we went over to his place, and he's got all the instruments everywhere. He's playing everything. It's kind of, it's almost like I was with a young Stevie Wonder. Just the guy was phenomenal. He was just amazing, incredible. And I was just like, man, this guy, and he's playing all these, he's playing different instruments. And he's like, you going to play something? I'm like, well, no, I don't play. And he looks at me like, wait, what? I go, no, I don't play an instrument. And he's like, wait, I don't understand. He's like, how are you signed with one of the biggest labels in the world? And how are you working with this guy who I've wanted to work with my whole life? How are you doing all this stuff and you can't play an instrument? And here's a guy who, easily 12, 13 instruments, easily that I saw that he played. I said, you know what? I don't know. I just go with my gift. I go with what, like what I have. I don't try to be anybody that I'm not. I don't try to do anything that I can't do. I'm just me. And then everything and all the lines, like you say, it fell together in pleasant places. I helped somebody do something. And because I helped them, we had an agreement that we would be on each other's album whenever whoever got the first to get their music out. 2 years later, after that agreement, that friend said, hey, I'm coming back into town and we're working on the album. So I go, okay, great. I'll go. We go to the album party. We sit down and talk about what we're going to do. And I hear her musicians and I say, I'm not going to sing on this album with you. And she's like, what? I'm like, well, the people you have are much better than me. I'm not going to, you're my friend. I'm not going to like take the place of somebody who's world class, and I'm going to no, I won't do it. And she was like, no, you promised me. And I said, well, we'll work on something. We'll do something. So we picked one song and I just did one thing on the song. I did a rap at the end of the song. That was it. But that was commitment. We're going to be on it. So I'm in the studio. We're doing the song and someone walks in to the back of the studio. I guess their red light was not on, recording in session. They walked in. I just started, goofing on them, breaking on them. And the producer kept the recording. They keep recording. So I was messing with the person. We were laughing and joking, just being crazy. They put that on the album. They took that portion, put it on the album. And then a guy heard that and said, who is this guy? Because I want to meet this guy. And then that became the emphasis for, hey, I want to do this album. We're doing this album. Would you like to do it? And so all the lines fell in pleasant places, but it was one of those things where, you you jump in and you do the things, and then you see what happens later.
Yeah.
I don't know where I think I took that story all the way around the world.
No, you circled back. That was great. But it's also, it is also a great example of just showing up. Like you made a commitment, you showed up, and then you just were you. You weren't trying to be anybody you weren't. And that in and of itself has a great energy with it. When people just show up as themselves, it just leaves things open. No one's trying to be perfect or like some projection of themselves. They're just, so when you're goofing around, you're having fun, take it or leave it, you're having fun. And how great that the red light wasn't on. Yeah. Look, I mean, just all the coincidence or synchronicities, actually. So I know you're working on some projects at the school that are creative. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you share any of that, what your hopes are? Yeah, sure.
I definitely can. But if I talk about the school, I've got to talk about first the head of the school. Her name is Kristen Sewan, and she has really made it possible for people like me and people who have dreams and want to do things. She's made it really possible for us to like plug in and like really be ourselves and like really produce and do things. So without her, it wouldn't be possible. But one school, amazing school. I have 3 kids, and 2 of them graduated. One graduated this year and graduated a couple years before. And then I have a 9th grader now. So my kids have gone through one school, love it. And at one school, I teach music production, high school music production. And the way we originally set up the program was I was going to dual teach it with one of my writing partners. And the way things kind of fell together, he went to Europe to do some work, and I took over the class. And a big thing for me was it doesn't matter if the kids can push the buttons and do the levers and do what everybody else does. If they're not reaching deep inside and pulling something out of themselves that no one else in the world has, because they've got something that we need, right? We all need things from other people, right? We're not putting this thing by ourselves to be by ourselves, to live by ourselves. Everything that we do, say, and touch, someone else has had a part of. And so we need each other deeply. Like, it's a big deal. And so, when we're working together in projects, I go, hey, listen, I don't really care if you get it right. I don't care if you get it wrong. I don't care if you mess it up. I don't care. Music is subjective. I just need you to produce. I need you to produce some things. I need the world to hear what's going on inside of you. Like, let's hear that. That's important. So that's the way we started with our kids, and they just blossomed. They're like, yes, like, I want you to hear what I have to say. I do. I do think what I want to say is important. And so they responded really well. We're working on projects. So in our class, we only write original music. So we write, arrange, produce only original music. We don't do other music. We don't, try to figure out how to make someone else's song better. We work on our voice and what we want to say to the world and how we package it. So we've got about 2 albums worth of music. So right now it's really about packaging it. I write for other artists or for people. So if someone sings, if I hear them sing or if I'm around them, I generally write a song for them. So we've written a bunch of songs for other people to sing, and we're hoping that they can express themselves to the world. We just need to, this year, start pushing out some of these songs into their different streams.
So what has been some of the reactions from your students?
So we call them scholars on our side of the world.
Scholar. Oh, I like it. Scholars. Yeah. That's much more elevated than student.
Yes, we push them like you're gonna be a scholar. You gotta know.
It's a different vibe.
I think it's a different vibe. It is. We try to hold them to a standard that we think that they can reach, but that maybe a lot of people haven't told them that they need to. And we try to tell them all the time, this is where you need to be. But as far as the reaction, they've just take ownership of, who they are and what they want to express. I mean, there's not, I guess maybe in our lifetime, maybe we were maybe a little bit more hesitant to put ourselves out there. But these kids, that's all they know. They don't know anything else. They know everybody they watch is someone that put themselves out there. And so to them, it's natural. To them, they're like, oh yeah, let's do this. Now, of course, there's always I don't want my classmates to think, what I did was horrible. There's always that, thing that we all deal with as kids, but they're much more willing to put themselves out there and show it. And they've done it. They've done some great, just some amazing music. We're just so overwhelmed by how good it is, because it's really good. They've done a great job.
As a result of their experience with music, well, I'm sorry, I got to ask you a prep question because I may be making an assumption. So are the kids who come here focused on music and art when they come to the school?
No. So
okay.
So when the kids come to the school, we're really different because we're a school of the arts, but we're also a Christian school. So those two things don't usually go together. They're usually kind of
why not?
diametrically opposed. Well, that's just the way, that's just the way it's been. Super creatives and, and religious folks don't generally kind of, mesh.
Time
we
to
mesh.
Change that. Yeah.
Exactly. So we mesh. So when they come, they not necessarily into music. Some of them are into theater. Some of them are into culinary. We have different pillars. So it's communicative arts, it's culinary arts, it's musical arts. Like we have a lot of different ways for the kids to express themselves. So the key is okay, it's an elective. If you love this, if you come to this class, I got to figure out where you are in the spectrum, as so to speak. Are you a super talent and this might be something that you're going to want to do, for a living? Or are you here, because your friend took the class and you want to be with your friend, and you want to hang out, you know how high school is, and everything in between. And so I just say, hey, it doesn't matter why you're here. I need you to do two things. Number one, I need you to leave with a better appreciation and understanding of music in general. I want you to love it. You gotta leave loving it. Even if you've never loved it before, you have to leave loving music. And for whatever reasons it may be specific to you, we got to find them, and you got to love it when you leave. And then the second thing is, I just need you to produce something from out of yourself. And I don't care if it's good. Good is not a part of what we do. Like, we don't do good in the sense of, oh, that's good and that's not good. If you created it, it's yours. It's subjective. Everybody likes certain things. There are things that I don't like musically. And I just go, oh, that is really, really expressive, but there's some things that I don't personally like. So I don't tell them they have to like a certain thing. Just create. You have to produce music and you have to love it. And then everything else in between, we'll just see, we'll see how it turns out.
So for your scholars who have gone through that, who maybe come in and they were on the spectrum where they're like, I'm here because my friend's here. Have you been surprised? Like, has anybody just gravitated so much to this that they've said, I'm doing this. I'm going to go all in on music because my soul speaks to it. And I never knew it until I was in this class.
I would say that happens every year with a few. Most of the conversations are private, and they'll be like, oh, I think I'm going to do this, or man, this has profoundly affected me. They won't say it publicly unless they're already there. Excuse me. So the kids who are already there, who are already like, they want to do it. They're publicly saying like, yes, I want you to hear my music. Yes, I want you, like, this is what I want to do. And for the kids who came in kind of like you said, I just want to be with my friend. Some of those kids have produced music that we're all like stunned. Like, how did you do that? But because they tapped into their voice, like what they wanted to say to the world, it became very easy because nobody knows what you want to say more than you.
Rodney, that's the whole lesson, period, right? Who can know our voice better than us? And we try to be other people when we're not. And then we find ourselves falling short of that because we're not being us, which we're 100% capable of being.
Right?
Yeah, I just love how your approach to this is, because you think about, I'm thinking about that one teacher who took you to the concert. I know in my life, I had a couple of teachers who had that same impact on me. And as a result, I really loved certain aspects of learning. whether I went anywhere specific with it or not, I just was thirsty for it because of the way I expressed it. But I went back to a time I remember the sensations. Like, I bet you can remember how you felt every moment of that night seeing the concert, like what you were wearing, what your clothes felt like, all the energy around you. And my mom took me to see Henry Mancini. I don't know if you know who he is, right? Pianist.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was playing two pianos at the same time, but I must have been eight, like for my birthday, patent leather shoes, get the girls dressed up. But I still remember it to this day, and I'm thinking, oh my God, live music is so amazing. And then they brought me down because I was a little kid and these were all fancy pants grown-ups in there. But they brought me down and I got to sit on the piano bench next to him. And I thought, oh, this is surreal. I'm not a musician, but I have always, like, when someone goes, do you want to go to hear music? I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely. Because there's an energy there, right? So I'm your kid who would love music, but not be good playing it. But I can't imagine someone never having introduced me to it. And for someone as yourself who is so creative and a musician, a vocal musician who has that thread of river of music in you, thank goodness that teacher pulled that out for you so you could be you fully. So what's next for you, Rodney?
I think right now we're just really pushing to get this new set of music out, to get these kids seen and heard, and a couple other. We've got some adults who have written some songs for some adults that I think that they're gonna touch people's lives. So it's really about pushing them out, getting them out there, letting people hear and experience the music, and then from there, we just go from there wherever that takes us. Got a couple of projects that we want to do. We want to integrate other types of art with the music so that we can create bigger synergies, like you said. That's kind of where we're at right now.
So if someone is listening to this and they are thinking to themselves, I want to help Rodney get this project done. I don't know what he needs, but I want to be part of some young person's life in a way that helps them be heard. What could they do? Should they reach out to you? Are there ways for people to help?
We've never put anything in place for people to help. They're scholars in schools, so we're very careful about protecting, any interaction from the outside, with them, of course, and protecting their music. That's a really good question. I probably should have been prepared for that. What could someone do?
How could you know? I'm coming at it from I'm coming up going, wow, if I wanted to invest in this, I don't need to see the kids. But if I were going to support the school and making sure you had the resources you need or some way to help in that way, not everybody has to have a face on, right? And the scholars need their minors, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So no, we don't all get access to the young people. That's not copacetic. But I'm just thinking if someone came in and said, this is so important, or I want to replicate this, I want to learn from the one school. So I asked because I'm thinking it's so moving that I would imagine somebody's going to want to step up and help or open doors.
I was going to say, usually the help to open doors, I think is amazing. I think, like we said, sometimes you show up and in the midst of what's happening, that synergy, what's happening, you find what the answer is. You find, oh, this is where we should go with this. You find the possibilities. But yeah, I think the interaction is probably the most important. How do we sit down and have a conversation? I had someone, a mentor tell me, two people can walk together only if they agree on the destination, right? But we got to get together first and then talk about, hey, well, what does this look like for you? Well, I think it would be this, so that would be the most important. How do we connect and have a conversation?
So can we have folks, if someone's really moved and is serious about having a conversation with you in the school, can they just reach out to you through the school?
Yes, they can, definitely.
Okay. And I know your email's on there.
Yes.
I checked you out. Cool. So we'll make sure those are in the show notes, folks. But if you love music, if you love young people, if you love being sincerely who you are at your core and you want to help, reach out. Rodney's picture is on the website. His email link is right on his picture. All you got to do is click it and you can reach out to Rodney and have that first conversation to see if you're even walking in the same direction. My bet is if you've got the urge to help, there's a place to help.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/no labels, no limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.